Greetings. We are live. My internet is being a little funny right now. I hope that y'all can see me and hear me. Um, the connection's been weird, but here we are. My name is Ujo Wajet. I am an intuitive self development coach, personal trainer, and spiritual mentor. And this is part three of a four-part mini series that I am doing this week in preparation for my upcoming workshop, which focuses on connecting with tarot through the elements of nature. And that workshop is happening on Sunday, August 22nd from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central. It is a live virtual workshop, so it's not in person. And if you are interested in learning more about that workshop, no matter if you are a novice to tarot, if you're very new to tarot, if you've never touched a deck before and you're wanting to get guidance from an experienced mentor and you want to learn how to interpret tarot through the elements of nature, which is the focus, then you can send me a message, you can drop a comment, or you can send me a DM either on Instagram or on Facebook, or you can go to my YouTube. Not YouTube, you can go to my website, and all the links are in the description if you're interested in that. And I hope you stay tuned because today in part three, I'm going to be talking about the types of questions to ask and to avoid during your tarot readings, whether you're reading for yourself, especially if you're reading for yourself, and then also, if you are reading for other people, or say you don't know, maybe you have never received a reading before, you're not sure how to phrase your question. That's going to be the focus. And I will share some tips and some of my experience with you. And then if you have any questions, I will definitely answer those questions. If you're here live and if you're watching the replay, you can post your questions in the comments. No matter which platform, if you're watching me on Facebook or on YouTube, I'm streaming on both simultaneously. And then I will respond to those as soon as I can. So let me pop in and say hi. Hey, Via. Hey, Buddha. Hey, Lana. Hey, Lynette. Welcome. How are y'all doing? What is going on? So let's dive in. If you have never received a tarot reading before, and maybe you've been curious about it, or if you have a deck, maybe you don't even have your deck yet, whatever it is, or maybe you have one and you're kind of stuck on how to phrase your questions, what you should actually be asking. One of the reasons why this is important is because in order to get the most out of your reading, in order to get the best experience, and by best experience, I mean getting clarity through the cards, phrasing your questions in certain ways, or how to ask your question is something that can really help that experience. So, for example, what are the types of questions you can ask? You can ask yes or no questions. I don't feel that yes or no questions are optimal when it comes to using tarot cards for yes or no. You can, but I feel like it's, especially in the beginning, focus yes on yes or no when it comes to tarot. Even though you can use it, there are readings out there and spreads, and I've created tarot spreads that are based on yes or no. But I feel like in the beginning, if you're a new reader or you're new to learning tarot, and even if you're just receiving a tarot reading and you're wanting to get some insight, yes or no is not optimal, because it's always it depends. It depends. A lot of answers are it depends. It depends on, so for example, And you might have seen, for those of you, if you've seen me do tarot readings, once a month on or around the new moon, I host a live stream new moon tarot chat where I am performing live readings, and I randomly select people that are there. And you might have seen me do this or seen people ask certain questions. So let's say relationships, like, oh, will I find the love of my life? That question is, it's like, okay, it could be a yes or no question. But then it's such a vast question, because finding the love of your life, or, you know, finding a relationship, or that is, if I could pull a card there, but there's so much that to unpack out of that question, because it depends on you, right? Finding the love of your life is not, you're not going to get the most direct answer from that, or you won't get the most out of your reading from will I find the love of my life. And usually what I do is ask additional questions to really narrow down what is the question behind the question. So maybe you're wanting to find the love of your life, right? But if you haven't, is this a question that you're just asking it just to ask? Have you been actively seeking that love of your life? Are you even at a stage where you really want that? Or are you just wanting to see what the cards say, right? There's so many layers to the question. So you have these yes or no type questions that don't really, at least from my experience, it's best to really look at, to narrow in on that question. And the more specific you are with what you want to focus on, I think you get a bit more value out of your reading. So you have yes or no type questions. What I think is best are open-ended questions that really focus on what would the outcome be? Well, what is the potential outcome of this a situation or a scenario? So going back to how I phrase that, will I find the love of my life? And this is kind of like a close-end question of like this yes or no thing. And it's really like a big question versus maybe you're actively dating, or there's someone that you recently met and you want to see if you're moving in the right direction with this person, if this is somebody that you should continue to, is it worth exploring this, this relationship and seeing if you two are a good match for each other, right? What would be the outcome of, me moving forward with this individual and, and exploring this relationship? What would be the potential outcome? That would be a bit better, right? Because you're looking at potential outcomes versus, is this person right for me? Because it depends on what you actually want and what you're seeking. And one of the great things about tarot and just life in general is you have choices, you have options, and the response that you get out of a reading, it's not set in stone. If you don't like the response that you're getting out of a reading, you can decide, like, you know what, this is a potential outcome. Let's say you're getting all types of, you're getting some cards that are just like Three of Swords. Let me try to find a Three of Swords so y'all can see what I'm talking about. Here it is right here. Maybe you're getting this card. You're asking, what could be the potential outcome here of this relationship, and you're getting this. If you move forward, you get this one. Moving forward with this relationship, you get this, right? And then moving away from this relationship, maybe you're getting this card. I'm just pulling two random cards here, right? These could be two potential outcomes. This one if you move forward with the relationship, this one if you, step back. And then it's like, okay, well, which outcome do you want to explore? You have the choice to do that. You don't have to when you see these cards that come up, especially when you're reading for yourself, and that's really what I'm focusing on, because sometimes you can get caught up in that mind clutter, which I talked about in the first video of this series. You can get caught up in the mind clutter, and then you're not really seeing things. You're not stepping back and looking at things objectively. But having more open-ended questions and seeing potential outcomes versus is this a definite yes or no, that can support a potential decision, that it can support a choice that you make, versus, okay, it's saying a definite no and then that's it. And then you just kind of like, okay, well, I'm just going to move on. No, you have the right to choose a path that you want to take. And one of the great things about about life is, you know, you can do things the hard way or the easy way, right? You can take the scenic route, the route where you would get dragged and you have to learn a lot more lessons and it takes a lot longer to get there. Or you can take the most direct path. So you might receive, and this takes me to the next point. So I talked about kind of yes or no questions and questions that are too big. Then you have questions where it's more of an open-ended question and it's a bit more specific and leading you to potential outcomes of, if I choose this direction, what would the potential outcome be? What's the potential outcome for this direction, right? And I've been using the relationship or finding the love of your life as like, as an example of that. And really, this goes into, you can change your mind at any point. You can decide, and you can see something where maybe you're wanting this relationship to work. Let's stick with the relationship, because I get a lot of relationship questions. So you want this relationship to work, and the cards are like, this ain't for you, boo. The cards are saying, no, this isn't happening, right? And you might not be trying to hear it. You can choose to go to just completely move forward with that relationship, seeing all the warning signs, seeing all these things of like, this is the outcome, and this outcome is not going to be favorable for what you're actually seeking. So you don't have to listen to the, you don't have to, like, what you get out of the reading, out of those questions and that response, you might just decide to take another route, and you can do that. You have a choice to do that, and then you can learn and realize, like, okay, now I understand why those cards were coming up. Now I understand the reasoning behind these particular cards, which is why I think it's important for you to, when you are pulling cards for yourself, to journal, write down the questions that you're asking, and keep track of the cards that you're pulling. And take notes of that, because it's something that's really good to go back and look at. Well, what ended up happening with this particular, you know, based off of this question, based off of this reading that I did, what was the result of that? And then you can get more clarity. You know, hindsight can be clearer sometimes, and so you look back on it, it's like, well, you know what, I have a deeper understanding of why these cards were coming up. And I know why I wasn't trying to hear what the cards were trying to say. Lesson learned, moving on. So really, you know, like I mentioned before, I use tarot and I teach tarot through the lens of it being a tool that you can use for personal, spiritual, and intuitive growth. And it's something that you can use to support or get more clarity on a direction that you should take, versus this is what the card's telling me, and that's the be all end all. Let me go in the comments and see. Let me know if this is resonating with you so far, and if you have any questions. Hey, Angelfish. Greetings, greetings. Yes, Ebony, I know it's you. We live in the giggles. 3 cards. Yeah, you know, you can definitely do, I love a good 3-card spread. And I think, sometimes, especially if you are a new reader or you're still learning, starting with the one card pull and then using additional cards as like a clarifier for your question, that can also be a good way to start. There are tons of, you can Google all types of tarot spreads and stuff like that are online. Or you can just pull intuitively. There's benefits to both. And in the workshop that I'm hosting on Sunday, I have created, I have 5 tarot spreads that will be in the journal that you all will be getting, and we'll be covering some of those spreads as well. So tarot spreads versus pulling cards intuitively, they each have their place and they can support your questions, which kind of takes me into, so I talked about yes or no questions. I talked about, close end versus open end, and like questions kind of being too big. Really look at what is it that you want clarity on. And is the clarity about you, or is the clarity about that you're seeking is about another person? So it kind of leads me to that. Like, are you just pulling cards to be nosy? Are you just pulling cards to to try to be up in somebody else's business? Right? Like, are you trying to pull cards just to figure out what other people doing in their life, or are you pulling cards for yourself so you can learn more about you and you in a particular situation, which is very different. So I'm gonna say that again. Pulling cards to be nosy and figure out what other people are doing in their lives versus pulling cards for yourself and getting clarity on where you stand in a situation that might involve other people, that's very different. So how you phrase your questions, for example, we'll go to the relationship thing again, so we talked about a question being too big. Will I find the love of my life? Probably, maybe not, right? It depends. And if you dive deeper in, okay, well, the next person I come across, will this person, or I've recently met someone, is this someone that can have, what would be the potential outcome of me moving forward, or, taking things seriously versus keeping things casual. Let's dive deeper. Let's say, this person that I'm kind of interested in, what do they do, and what's been going on with them. That is different. You're trying to find out all about this person and what they're about versus like your potential interaction with them. And there's an ethical aspect here when it comes to these types of questions where you're focusing just on another person and the reading is specifically about another person and you're diving into their stuff. And this is something that it's a personal decision, especially whether you're reading for yourself or pulling cards, you're reading for yourself, or even as a reader. I think especially if you are reading for other people and someone's asking you a question about somebody else, it's like, well, how deep will you really go into, figuring out other people's business versus looking at. And so like for me personally, I don't like to do readings where it's like, oh, I just want to find out about this person. It's like, no, let's talk about your connection with this person and that particular interaction versus let's just be all up in their business. That's different. And that's something I had to create a boundary when it came to readings, reading for other people, that I show them how to rephrase the question to where it's like, okay, well, what exactly are you looking to find out? And let's, I'm not going to do readings for, just only talking about this person. Let's talk about your relationship with this person, the dynamic of that relationship or your interactions or this situation. and how it, I always bring it back to the querent, or to the person in the reading. But same thing for myself. If I'm pulling cards for myself and there's another person or people or a scenario with multiple people involved, I bring it back to me. Like, this should tie back into what's going to be the best outcome for me in regard to this situation. And I encourage you to explore that when it comes to how you phrase questions for yourself, is when it involves other people. Don't be out here trying to just be nosy. Like, oh, let me see what they doing. Let me see what's going on over here. and pulling cards or going to get readings just to find out about other people's stuff. Nah. And there are people out there that, there are tarot readers out there that they make a lot of money off of, being up in other people's business, because they're, and it's a thing. And I'm not knocking nobody's hustle. I'm not knocking nobody's thing. Do your thing, but just tune into your intuition, tune into, like, look at your own morals and your values. Would you want somebody just diving into all of your stuff? Like, why would you even want to put that much energy into somebody else? That's kind of my take on it. But again, I'm not knocking nobody's hustle. You have to decide what do you value, what's ethical to you, and what's moral to you, what aligns for you. So I'm all about looking at the interaction with another person and how that influences the dynamic of your situation or your relationship, right? Whatever's going on. But it can't just be, I just want to know more. Like, I just want to know what's going on with my baby daddy, or I just want to know what's going on with my best friend. I just want to know what's going on with my mom. It's like, why do you want to know that? Right? So how can you rephrase the question to where, so it's like, okay, maybe you have a concern about your mother, right? Or your best friend or your coworker. But how does that influence the dynamic of your interaction with that person? Have you, sometimes you can just ask, like, hey, are you okay? What's going on with you? You can actually ask the other person versus trying to back end the situation and trying to find out what's happening before you approach that person. So sometimes I do give that type of advice. So something to think about. Let me go to the comments again here. Yes, just for more information when it comes to using tarot to assist you. It's a tool versus, a be all end all. It's not like, oh, this is the only way that it has to be. Spirit said we don't need advice. He needs to clarify what you already are. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a great way to get some clarity when you're not sure, or you're like, okay, what is the best potential outcome? But then you have to get clear on, well, what do you consider to be the best outcome? What do you actually want? So really getting clear on that. Let's see here. Yes, I've been talking to this guy who lives in a different state, and I wonder the potential outcome with him too. He is serious about me, but I think I'm resistant towards him. So yeah, so with that's a great scenario to look at, the potential outcome of, you can break it down into, should I take this, maybe this is something that just be casual, take things slow, versus, complete, versus like, let me just back off and move on. Right. So you can look at, and it doesn't always have to be two paths. It could be three or four potential outcomes or directions that you're considering taking. It's like, okay, should I move forward with this? Should I take things really slow? Should we just remain friends? Should I just completely move on? And you can pull one card for each of those potential outcomes or scenarios and see what would work best. And this is where, I think Angelfish kind of mentioned, like, a 3-card spread or something like that. when it comes to the type of question that you ask, the type of question that you ask would really determine the type of spread that would give you that best experience, if you're using a spread. So, like I said, there's tons of spreads out there. And actually, for those of you, if you are into journaling, I do have, so I mentioned in my workshop, there's going to be a tarot book. That's going to be a different book, but I do have a tarot journal that's out on the market now. And there are, I have some tarot spreads in there. I have a 1-card spread, a 3-card spread, and then a 5-card spread. And then this is just a daily tarot journal. And I'll be sure to post this link if you're wanting a journal. You can find this on Amazon, Trust Your Intuition Daily Tarot Journal. Yeah, and it has three spreads in there, and then a space for you to create your own spreads. So that's something, you can start with something really simple. And you can also just start with the 1 card, and then pull a clarifying card. So again, it really determines if you have a specific question, what spread actually makes the most sense for that particular question. And you don't always need a tarot spread for that. Sometimes you just need 1 or 2 cards. But again, it's up to you. Use your intuition with that as well. But that is a resource. If you're wanting a tarot journal that has a couple of spreads in there, that's something you can use. Let's see. This sounds like my best friend when she asked me to pull cards for her. She just wants to be nosy. Yeah. So yeah, you can determine okay, you can rephrase that question or whatever she's asking. You can rephrase that, but you can also tell her this is not something I'm really comfortable with doing. Let's rephrase it and really look at this person that you're wanting to learn more about, or let's look at how can we rephrase this to where it aligns with my values. And then if she don't be wanting to do that, then it's just hey, tell her to pull her own cards. So it's something to think about. She tried to make tarot the new Gossip Girl. That's funny. You can't handle the truth. They don't be ready. They don't be ready to hear it. I love it. So yeah, I really think that when it comes to the different types of questions, sit and think about the question that you why are you asking the question in the first place, right? You have your yes and no questions, your questions that are kind of too big, your questions that are more outcome driven, and you're looking at potential paths that you can take, and you're just kind of comparing your choices and your options. But one thing, how to prepare for a question. How do you do that? Really think about, because this is different from just doing a daily, pulling 1 card a day, which I talked about in the first video. But when you have some questions, really think about, what am I seeking? Am I seeking clarity? Am I seeking more a deeper understanding? Am I just wanting to shift my perspective and look at, maybe I'm wanting to get some awareness around some blind spots in a situation or a scenario. So your questions don't always have to be, oh, well, what will the outcome be of this or that? It could be, well, what am I missing? What am I not seeing in a situation that I need to be aware of, right? So you have your questions for clarity. You have your questions for a deeper insight. So maybe you already know that you want to move forward with a decision. You've already made your choice, and you just want to get some deeper insight, some more awareness around it. And then you have your blind spot questions of okay, what am I not seeing? What is missing? what are some things that maybe I need to avoid, right? So that's something to think about before you even ask, before you go into pulling cards for the question is, okay, I have this question, but what am I truly seeking? Am I asking this question for clarity? Am I asking this for more depth of the scenario, of the situation or experience? Or do I need to, really look at, check my blind spots of what I'm missing? What am I not, or what should I avoid? My blind spots or some potential warnings? And warnings aren't always a bad thing, but it's like, hey, be sure you are. A warning doesn't always have to be like, oh, something bad's going to happen, but a warning could be like, hey, you're going to move forward. Like, yes, move forward with this job. You've already made the decision. It's going to be a great thing for you. But hey, warning, don't overwork yourself. Don't get to the point where you're carrying, too much responsibility, or that you're forgetting to, maybe you're not going to get as much rest. Maybe you're going to trying to do too much too soon and you're overworking yourself. So just be mindful of that and to be sure to take care of yourself, create boundaries around that, right? So that could be a warning. It doesn't always have to be something terrible is going to happen. And so those are things I want you to think about. What category would you put this question in? And let me know, for those of you, you're tuning in live, if you have a question, what question have you been wanting to ask? And what category do you think it is in, based off of what I've shared, right? So think about a question that you would want to ask, right? That you would want to ask if you're comfortable with sharing. And then what category, or maybe it's a question you have asked in the past or recently, and then kind of think about like, okay, well, I recently had this question. Do you think it was a clarity question? Are you seeking more depth and deeper awareness, or kind of checking for blind spots or stepping kind of into the unknown? Go ahead with your question, Via. Because I think just, doing this live and me helping you with that can just give you a better idea of how to start. And you can have more categories for your questions too, right? So I'm just sharing 3, and these are 3 like common categories I tend to put questions in. I tend to, when I'm reading for other people, or if I'm reading for myself, where those tend to be the main categories. You're either not sure, you need clarity, you want to move forward, but you want to kind of flesh out the scenario and get more information and more insight, or you are wanting to, or it's like this unknown territory. You're kind of seeking blind spots, potential warnings, or, kind of stepping into this unknown aspect. Your life is pretty stable right now. That's good. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because when do people tend to want a tarot reading? And then when do you tend to want to read for yourself, right? So again, it's different from just a daily pull. Sometimes when everything's going great, you're just like, I don't need these tarot cards, because you're not seeking to like, you're just like, oh, everything's great. I don't need no insight. But you don't only have to use tarot and other forms of other tools when things are going bad. Sometimes it can be encouragement, or just if everything is stable and going well in your life, just to continue to move you forward. Or those potential blind spots, it's like, hey, well, what am I missing, or what am I forgetting? What am I not seeing? What do I need to be reminded of, right? So you can use, you can ask questions around that. It doesn't always have to be, something terrible is happening in my life and I need to know what's going on. Or some major kind of life event, like, oh, well, I'm moving to another country and I need to know like what to expect. It doesn't always have to be that way. Even though that tends to be when people want to reach out for a reading from me, like something is, usually going on, or they're wanting clarity. But it doesn't always have to be that way. And I think when you are building your relationship with tarot for yourself, just getting in the practice of having that sometimes it's confirmation. It's like, I'm feeling really good today. And, it's just words of encouragement, or, again, those potential blind spots, warnings, or reminders. So let's look over here. So your life's pretty stable. Let's see. I would like more clarity about changing my current environment. I want to have better clarity of what my blinders are. Okay. Yeah. And even that, right? So when things are going well, it's like, okay, well, how can just because things are going well doesn't mean it can't be better in one way or another. So yeah, when it comes to your blinders, so if you have your cards right now with you, I would encourage you to pull a card, right? So think about your environment and look at, well, what is the current state of my environment? Like, what is the current state? What card best represents that? The current state of my environment. So that's one question. Okay. And then the clarifier is, well, what is a blind spot? What am I missing? Or what do I need to focus on, or what do I need to be reminded of in this, in this current environment? So you see how that's two cards. Like, you're looking at you have one that's looking at the current state, like the present state, and then a potential blind spot. So if you have your cards with you right now, I would encourage you to do it now while we're here live, because that would be fun. But then you can get more specific on your blinders, or the things like, well, what should I focus on? What am I missing? What am I not doing enough of? So here, okay. What message does my spirit team want me to be aware of? So yeah, so that's a great question that you can ask. So with that, again, that's one of those things of getting a reminder or some awareness, or what your blind spots are. And that's a question that you can ask based on, my current environment, or like what's going on in my life right now. What do I need to be reminded of? Or, what is my spirit team, my ancestors, my guides, whatever your thing is, then you can ask something like that. And then see what comes up for you. Let me know, do you have a deck with you right now? Let me know. So we met in 2012 and haven't seen each other in years. He always had a thing for me, but I was taken, or he was taken, and I feel he is ideal for me, but not on the same frequency as me. Okay, frequency is a big deal. So yeah, so if you have your cards with you right now, or even later, then look at, okay, well, when it comes to the dynamic of this relationship, and by relationship, it doesn't have to be romantic relationship, but just the dynamic of your interaction. Like, well, what would be the best way to move forward for you, right? Is it, and what's the reason why you're not on the same frequency? Maybe it's for a reason, right? So what is that? And so maybe friendship is the best path for you two. Maybe just something on a professional level. Maybe it's just like a hi and bye, or when I'm in town, I see you type of thing. Or maybe it's, let's just never talk again, right? But question the reason why you're not. It's like, okay, well, why aren't we on the same frequency? Really question, like, well, what does that really mean then? Especially if you are changing and you're growing. But you might inspire that person to raise their frequency. That's one of the things about your own personal growth and your intuitive development journey. Don't wait for people. Don't wait for people. Don't wait for people. You can't, right? You have to move forward. And people are going to feel some kind of way. People aren't going to get it. People are going to judge you. People are going to talk shit, all the things. But sometimes you inspire others. You help give others permission to raise their frequency, whether they realize it or not. In the same way where me doing these, me doing readings and kind of talking more about tarot and these different other forms of like other modalities, and talking about intuition and spirituality and metaphysics and even fitness and wellness and nutrition and all these other things that I've talked about over the years, that has inspired other people to show up in a way that's authentic for them, right? Not necessarily, they're not trying to show up being like me, right? But they're showing up in a way that's authentic for them. It's like, oh, well, okay, she's doing this. She's talking about tarot and cussing and talking shit. Or she's, she's all these different things that, oh, I can kind of be more of myself and I can do these things too. So I feel like that's really important as well. So something to keep in mind. I want to know if I shall wait for him, but I think, what if I meet someone new? He's planning on visiting me soon. I want to get clarity. Yeah. So with these things, so you're saying you want a family eventually, right? So start with you, right? Start with you and what makes sense for the season of your life you're in right now. You said you want a family eventually. Is that something you're wanting now? Do you even want a relationship right now? Like, where do you stand on it for right now? Or is it something like in a year from now? Or, what do you even have time for? Right. So I was using the relationship question as an example for the types of questions. And when it comes to what you want out of somebody else or with somebody else, before you pull cards on that, first pull cards on yourself about, well, what do I want? What do I need to be doing? Do I need to sit down some damn where? Do I need to focus on, maybe you're on this verge, you're on this frequency surge, and maybe you need to focus on that first so you can be in better alignment with said future boo. Right? Whoever that might be. Sips tea. It's tea time, folks. Okay, good. You just got your cards. So yeah, pull cards based on those questions and let me know what comes up for you. Sometimes we do above and below, 6 cards, and then 3 for advice, 3 top, 3 on the bottom. Okay, so yeah, there's a ton of different spreads out there, and it really depends on what you are seeking. If you're seeking clarity, if you're seeking deeper awareness, if you're seeking some warnings, but you can also, just like you have this 6 card, it can all be in one spread, one big spread. But I do recommend, if you're new to tarot, to keep it, to start small and then kind of build, as you build your confidence, go into like bigger spreads. Oh, so you're pulling cards. Well, let me look at Angelfish. So you got the Strength card, leading by example. You got the 10. Okay, you got the 10 of Cups. Okay. So we're just kind of doing a practical exercise here when it comes to the questions and you phrasing your questions if you're just tuning in. So yeah, if you have a deck, whip out your deck. And if you have a question or you're wanting to figure out how to rephrase your question so you can get more clarity, then let me know. But the categories that I typically put questions in, or are you seeking clarity? Are you wanting more insight on a situation or an experience, like you've already kind of made the decision, you're already in it, and you're just wanting more depth of insight? Or is it your blind spots, or like the things that you're kind of missing, or reminders that you're seeking? So two of swords is what came up for the first question. Okay. How many cards? Well, that depends. Do you feel that you're getting the insight that you need from that one card? What's coming up for you with the Two of Swords, right? Based on that question. Because the Two of Swords, and let me pull the Two of Swords in the deck that I have here. Just so you all can see, for those of you that might not have a deck right now, or if you're catching the replay. Let me find it. Let's see. Two of Swords, Two of Swords. Okay, here's the Two of Swords, right? So she pulled the Two of Swords. And your deck might be completely different from mine. That's totally fine, right? But that's the card that she pulled based off of her question. Second card is my second card. For my second card, okay, it jumped. You got a jumper. Oh, you got a couple of jumpers. The Three of Pentacles, Four of Pentacles, and Page of Swords. Okay. So with those, right, with the jumpers, look at the look at those cards, how they actually came out, what order they came out in relation to your question. Review those cards and share what's coming up for you based off of those cards that you pulled. And start with your own, what's coming up for you intuitively, what's coming up for you based off what you're seeing. And then if you want to go and look, in the definitions and get more clarity there, you can do that. But I only recommend doing that after you've gotten your own insight and kind of written down or kind of, thought about what's coming up for you first. And then you can get some confirmation or some more understanding or more information through like the definitions, if you want to. True that. Family later. I feel like time is running up and I want to build a foundation first. So, right. So that's great, right? So now, because I feel like when it comes to asking questions, right? When you're using tarot cards or any other type of tool, sometimes you're asking questions that aren't really relevant to what you really need or want right now. You're thinking of the future of like, oh, okay, well, what's going to happen here? What's going to happen then? Or if this happens or if that happens. But it's like, okay, well, realistically speaking, is that where are you really trying to go that direction right now? Like, what do you need now? Let's start with now. And I feel like, when it comes to the type of questions that you ask, how far in the future are you trying to go? I feel with tarot, you get the best experience when you focus on the present. When you focus on the present and how your present experience can create certain outcomes in the future. And so there is a popular spread like past, present, future. That's a really common 3-card spread. But, what you do in the present determines what you do in the future. So just something to keep in mind. And really look at, well, what's going on for you in your present moment, your present experience, and think about, well, if the questions that I'm asking, how far in the future is this? Am I thinking about 3 or 4 years down the line, or am I thinking like 6 months from now? Right. So when it comes to relationships, are you and having a family and doing these things, is this something you're wanting in a year, 2 years, 3 years? Like, really think about that, because that will kind of change what you prioritize. And if you want to be at a certain point, so you can be prepared and feel more willing and ready to start a family, then it's like, yeah, in 3 or 4 years, I want to be at a point where I have a family. I want to, really start settling down. Then you can start to reverse engineer that and think about, well, what am I doing now? What do I need to start doing or continue doing, right? To build that foundation. Then you can shift the questions into, and then there's your question. What can I do now? I know this is what I want in a few years from now. So what can I start doing now? Or what should I focus on now? What am I missing right now? What do I need to be reminded of right now? So I can build that foundation to get what I want in the future, right? So just another way to reframe things that you're wanting in the future and how you can dial that back, reverse engineer it to what you need to do in the present moment. And I feel like you'll get a lot more. And I tend to do this when I read for other people. You might have seen me do this during my live readings, or if you have gotten a private reading from me, then you might have noticed that I do this. I always dial it back to what you can start doing now and actions you can take now to get to that desired goal, or to avoid that that potential outcome that if you don't want to experience that. Like, oh, hell no, Ujo, I don't want that. Like, okay, what can you do now to avoid that and to kind of pivot? Because again, like I said before, you can change things. If you do something different, you can have a different outcome. Okay, what did you get, Angelfish? You got the reverse wheel, strength, and the 10 of cups. I asked, am I balanced emotionally in the decision I'm about to make? Okay, so based off of that question, what do you feel those cards are sharing? What do you feel is coming up for you with those? What do you feel that the cards are showing you based off of your question? And are you all liking this little practical exercise we're doing here with the questions? Hey, MC, welcome, welcome. Okay, so you have the Two of Swords. First, you're getting trust. That's what you felt once you pulled it out. Like, I had the tools and I do it, but you do it blindfolded. Okay. Confidence about the first question. No matter where I choose, no matter where I choose to, I'm protected. So now for the jumpers, I would like some clarity. Okay. You also feel a lot of gratitude. Love that. So you see now, with your jumpers, right? So sometimes you will get jumpers when you are pulling cards for yourself or for others, right? It's quite common. And with the jumpers, I mentioned earlier, like, look at how the jumper cards come out, how they're laid out. So let's say these three cards just flipped out of the deck, and all three of them came together, right? And they come and they laid out in a specific order. So pay attention to the order of those cards. And then based on the question, what do you feel is there a progression happening with those cards? Is there one particular card that sticks out to you the most out of those jumper cards, and what do you feel it represents? Like, really look, but I encourage you to look at how the cards fall out if you get multiple jumpers in one, like a stack, or maybe like two fell out here and then one fell out here. Really look at, okay, well, these two cards came out together and this one was separate. So what do these two cards mean in relation to each other, or like what's happening here, and then what does this card mean? So I think that's a good starting point when it comes to the jumpers when you're asking questions. Sometimes jumper cards can be clarifiers for for a card that you've already pulled. Sometimes it's like, hey, this too. Sometimes it's stuff that you're avoiding, that you're not really trying to deal with, and the jumper cards come out like, nope, don't forget about this part, because the universe is petty like that. So let me know. Let me know what comes up for you there. And with jumpers, you know, when you are reading cards and you have jumpers, so you can also decide. So I talked about like your ethics and your morals and stuff like that earlier. But when it comes to your style of reading, you might decide that you don't want that you don't want to even acknowledge jumper cards. So you might not even want to pay attention to them. Maybe you only pay attention to jumper cards that when they jump out, they're flipped up, right? So maybe when they come out, it's not showing the back, it has to be flipped up. This is one of my favorite cards out of this deck, by the way. Isn't she fabulous? I mean, I'm just saying. She is just glowing and just giving me all the life. Miss Nine of Pentacles, one of my favorite cards in this deck. Anyway, so that's something to keep in mind too. On the other end, maybe you only read with jumper cards. So that's something to think about too. You don't have to commit to any of it, but this is just something where as you build your relationship with tarot and you get more confident and comfortable and you're shuffling and however you can feel comfortable shuffling, because someone asked in a previous video, like what's the best way to shuffle, and it's really however you want. There's different ways, but it's up to you. Maybe for you, you're just like, okay, the only way I'm acknowledging a jumper card is if it's facing up, if the card's facing up. If it's flipped down, then it doesn't count, or whatever, right? That's something that you can explore and play around with. Also, like say maybe with reversals versus upright cards. Like I personally don't read with reversals. So by that meaning, I don't turn my cards intentionally to where there's upright and and reversed. If a card comes out reversed, I will pay attention to that. But I don't intentionally make my cards like turn my cards around. But again, that's a personal choice. There's no right or wrong. You can do it whichever way feels best for you. And a lot of times it's just based off of your experience. Maybe, over the years or over the next several weeks, you might feel like, you know what, I tried it this way, and maybe you want to try reversals. And, I just encourage you to explore. I encourage you to explore and just see what feels right for you. And then you'll find that your style and that way and your flow with your deck. So something to keep, just another thing to keep in mind with the cards. So the question was what my spirit team wanted me to be aware of. First one was the Three of Pentacles, and then it was Four of Pentacles, and then the third was the Page of Swords. Okay. So my heart is aching or it's full. I'm not sure. But strong emotions like my energy is potent. I don't currently know what that means for me. Okay. Well, so maybe you're kind of torn. Maybe you're a bit in limbo, right? Because you were saying your heart is aching or it's full. You're not sure. And then you have, you're not really sure what it means to have like this, that you have this strong energy. It kind of feels like, you have all this energy, or you have all this potential, or you have all this stuff, but you're not using it, or you're not directing it in an intentional way. And maybe it's time to do that. So kind of if you're stuck in between, so maybe it's like you're kind of in limbo because you're not sure where to direct your energy or your emotions. Sometimes if you're in a stagnant place, then it's like, well, just because everything is going okay, just because things are like feel safe, or because things are like just because nothing is going wrong, doesn't mean that things can't be better. It also doesn't mean that. So maybe this is time for you to not be complacent. I feel like when we are in a good space and things are kind of going well, it can be easy to kind of drift into complacency. And maybe this is an opportunity for you to look at, well, are your spirit guides encouraging you to look at what you truly want and desire, where you do want to focus your energy, or where you do want to see how to best make use of that potent energy that you're picking up on, right? Maybe your heart is both aching and full, right? And spirit is like, hey, like there's all this other stuff that you've been wanting to do, and you've just been over here just, being in life, but not, are you going through the motions in life, or or are there ways that you can like live it more in a more intentional way? I hope those, let me know if that was helpful. I'm giving you some feedback based off those cards that you pulled. Let me know what comes up for you. I read reversals. I get positive messages with reversals, and sometimes I get dragged. Yep. Me too. I stay getting dragged for filth. Okay. And that's one of the things with reversals. Reversals don't always mean that it's the negative, the negative aspect of the card, because depending on the card, you can get a positive reading. It can be something positive. And, I look at reversals as it's just a different perspective. So for me, when a reversal, when I'm reading, pulling cards and I get a reversal, I look at it like, okay, this card is reversed. What do I need to do to turn this situation around, to create that, to turn that situation around with the card. But I don't feel like, for me personally, I feel like there's enough range in tarot to where I don't need reversals, but reversals still come up. So that's why when a reversal does come up in my in my readings, whether I'm reading for myself or for other people, I pay attention to it even more so, because I'm like, I don't don't turn my cards this way. So okay, this is showing up for a reason. So I'm gonna pull a card and give you an example of that, of what could be a positive reversal, because some people do get freaked out by reversals. Actually, let me pull the card. This card that I pulled out earlier. I also love it. I think this card is really cool. This is a Morgan Greer Tarot, for those of you that are interested. So so this is the upright of this card, right? This might be a card where you want to get the reversal, depending on the question that you ask, right? So the reversal of this, so okay, let's look at the upright. Think about what this could mean in the upright position. Heartache, heart pain, worries, disappointment, being heartbroken, maybe even kind of really being guarded, creating pain in others, right? So it's not always about self-inflicted pain, but maybe what you're causing to others, or kind of having, I even look at it as like your heart being really guarded. Your heart, your emotions, your mind, or your sometimes your mind is blocking your emotions, because even though there's a heart here, this is the swords suit. So it could be like, okay, is your mind actually getting in the way of your emotions and kind of creating barriers there? A lot of different ways that you can interpret this. So getting the reversal of this could mean maybe you were in a situation like this and things have turned around for you to where you are releasing some of those things. Or maybe you're in a situation where this, the potential for those barriers were there before, but now you have moved on past that, or maybe people are trying to put you in that type of experience, but it's easy for you to overcome it, or it's not even phasing you anymore. There's so many ways you can unpack this, right? I'm just giving you an example here of this. This could be very positive in a reversed form. But again, for me, I look at if I get this in reversal, it's like, okay, well, what needs to happen for this to be turned around? Is this something that needs to be turned around, right? So if I get this and I'm like, okay, well, maybe if I do things in this, if I keep moving in this direction, then maybe it's going to turn this way, and I need to be mindful of that. So maybe it's a reminder of like, hey, to stay here, be mindful of how you move forward, or it's going to end you up back here versus this way. So I hope that was helpful. You heard that. You agree about the reversals. Yeah, and I think it's really a personal choice, and I think you should explore it and just see what comes up for you. There's no wrong way. And you will have people that say, absolutely, you must read reversals, others that are not about it. Find your way. Do what makes you feel good. Do what works for you. And there was a phase where, you know, I just kept getting reversals all the time. I'm like, okay, let me do this and let me be intentional with reversals. And I had a phase like that, and I was like, you know, no, that phase is over. So my heart chakra is being extra loud right now. That's funny that's happening, and I keep pulling up that three of swords. Talking about the heart. So there you go. So maybe it's an opportunity for you to kind of tune into your heart chakra and see, you know, what does that mean now that you're listening? Maybe you've been avoiding some things because you've been kind of in this kind of steady state of like, okay, nothing terrible is happening, so let me not rock the boat. So that could be a thing too. All right, we are just over our hour mark. I would love to know what did you enjoy most? What was your takeaway from this this live stream? This is part 3 of my 4-part tarot mini series I'm doing in preparation for my upcoming workshop that's happening Sunday, the 22nd of August, from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Central, which is 3 to 7 p.m. Eastern, and is 12 to 4 p.m. Pacific time. Yeah, so if you're interested in learning more about my upcoming workshop and you want to be a part of that, or even just see if it's something that's a good fit for you, you can let me know. You can send me a DM either on Instagram. Let me drop the link to my Instagram, or on Facebook, or you can send me a message here on in the YouTube comments saying that you want to learn more. Let me see. Here is the link. You can also find the links to connect with me in the description of the video. The link to my link tree is on there if you want to join my email list, if you want to be notified for when I do live streams and I share other updates and tips and things like that. And yeah, if you're interested in learning more, you do have to attend the workshop live. It's virtual though, so you don't have to be in person, but it is virtual. And in that workshop, it's connecting with tarot through the elements of nature, and we'll be together for 4 hours. And then after that workshop, you will have access to a pop-up Facebook group that I'm going to create, and you'll have access to that for 45 days. And again, this workshop is going to be a really small group, so you have until Friday to reserve a spot. And yeah, you get the 4 hours of live instruction. You get access to a 45-day pop-up group, which will give you time to implement what you've learned. And I'll also be sharing tips and things in there over the course of that time. And then you will also get a tarot journal from me. I will mail you a tarot journal as well, and you will get that. And it's going to be a lot of fun. So you don't have to know anything about tarot right now. It's really about connecting with tarot, literally how to interpret tarot through nature's elements. And you don't have to, we're not going to be focusing on definitions, even though I will provide a quick reference guide, but that's not the focus of memorizing definitions is not the focus of this workshop. It's a way for you to interpret tarot in a different way, or a new way that allows you to connect with nature and with tarot through your intuition. which you all know if you've been following me for a while. That's kind of the foundation of what I teach when it comes to intuitive development. And tarot is just one tool to do that. So if you're wanting in-person instruction and you want to work with an experienced reader, which would be me, then I highly recommend you send me a message so we can see if this is a good fit for you. Because I'm not going to have you invest in the tarot workshop if it's not a good fit for you. So just something to keep in mind there. And yeah, let me see what your takeaways were. Great info on trusting and discerning messages from Spirit via tarot. Thank you. I'm glad you enjoyed that. Tomorrow I will be live again, same time, 6:30 p.m. Central. And that will be my final, the final episode of this 4-part mini series. And yeah, and then I will, if you want to be added to my email list, be sure to click the link in the description if you want to join there. And then, yeah, if you have any questions about the workshop and you're interested in learning more about that, then send me a message. All right. I hope you enjoyed the rest of your evening, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye.